Hi, everyone. Miss Melinda here, your spiritual worker from MissMelinda's MetaphysicalServices.com, here to bring you our weekly live spirit chat, which is a chance for you to participate in a group coaching session and get your questions answered regarding developing your spiritual practice, developing your spiritual connection, your psychic abilities, your intuition, developing your relationship with your spirit guides, and all kinds of things related and in between. And today, I did accept early submission questions for this session. But first of all, let me just mention, in case you're not familiar, I am live both on Instagram as well as on YouTube. And I do these live spirit chats once per week and on both channels. So you can subscribe to me on YouTube to participate. You can also follow me on Instagram to participate. For today's session, I accepted some early bird submission questions. So those are the questions that I am going to attend to first. And I received a bunch of questions. I received 7 questions, and they were all super, super interesting. And I have the potential to go pretty in depth with most of them. So I have a lot of material to talk about already, but I'm hoping that we do have time to also attend to your live questions. I do really enjoy interacting with you and taking your live questions. It is one of the highlights of my week. So hopefully at the end of the chat, we have some time to do that. Hi, thanks for joining. So the first question that I have is, how do I figure out the significance of the sudden occurrence of patterns such as 444 or specific colors or animals? And specifically, he asked about 444, the time, like the occurrence on the clock of the time 444. This is a question coming through from Jim over at Divine Hand Jim. If you haven't had a chance to check him out, go ahead and check him out. Follow him on Instagram at Divine Hand Jim. He's a incredibly talented palmistry practitioner, and I highly recommend that you follow his interesting beads and just check him out. So Jim is wanting to know how to figure out the significance of these kinds of suddenly occurring patterns. And I'm going to kind of take this question step by step. So I know that angel numbers are super popular right now, and that's a big thing. That's not something that really resonates with me. And it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with angel numbers. There are many different ways to get to the same answer, right? There are many different paths to get to the same destination, but the angel numbers, they just don't really resonate with me. So the way that I would go about deciphering the meaning of reoccurring numbers is I would use classic numerology. And for example, in classic numerology, the number 4 is very much related to stability, solidity, earth energies. It's an immutable number. It's related to the solid material aspects of life. So just like anything, it can have a quote unquote light side and a quote unquote shadow side, right? So this reoccurring number could indicate that it's time to pay more attention to the structure of your life. It's time to bring in more structure. It's time to reevaluate your structure. It's time to work a little bit more or a little bit differently on the stable foundation of your life, perhaps create more stability. It can also mean that you're doing a great job on the stability, the foundation, and the structure that you are creating now, or the systems that you are creating. It does relate to our financial life and our material life, like relating to the pentacles and the tarot, for example. So that would be a good omen that you're on the right track in that area of life, or that positive things are coming to you in that area of life. Now, just overall, generally, the reoccurrence of numbers, especially triple numbers like the 444, 111, 333, these things are just generally telling us we're on the right track, and that our guides are seeing us, that they're here, that they're looking out for us, that good things are coming, that things are going well for us. Like, it's kind of like a thumbs up from your guides, as well as a reminder that they're here, that they're working on your behalf, and that they're going to continue to work on your behalf. So it's just a positive overall good omen that you're on the right track and that good things are going to continue to happen. So he also asked about specific colors or animals. And one more thing I want to add before I move on to that, the reoccurrence of numbers is one really cool and simple way that you can kind of test out your spiritual connection and test out the relationship that you're building with your guides, for example. And you can do this by saying, hey, I'm thinking about making such and such decision. I think that I'm going to go with decision A rather than decision B. If this is a good choice for me, go ahead and send me a sign, send me a triple number to let me know. Just play around with things like that and see what happens for you. Because as you are developing your spiritual connection, it's a good idea to put those kinds of tests out into the universe, not only to reinforce your own trust and your own faith, but also to actually get that concrete evidence. You'll be really surprised what will happen for you. If you put that intention out there, the likelihood of seeing those triple numbers is very, very high. And it's an excellent way to reaffirm your connection, reaffirm that you're on the right path, and reaffirm that, yes, they are looking out for me, they're hearing me, they're there. Moving on to specific colors or specific animals. For animals, for deciphering the meaning of animals, we can use the doctrine of signs. The doctrine of signs is the same thing that we use for all things in nature, especially for plants, botanicals, minerals, natural curios, things of that nature. The doctrine of signs means that we look at the overall characteristics of an animal or a plant and we decipher what do these characteristics symbolize, and therefore what is this good for in magic or in medicine, because it's not only used in folk magic, it's used in folk medicine as well. So for example, excuse me, thorns are very much related to protection or boundaries. Plants that are very prolific or grow extremely abundantly are related to prosperity, abundance, money. Let's apply this to animals. Bats, they're nocturnal. They represent the underworld. They represent the shadowy aspects of ourselves, like subconscious world, the dream world. They represent a connection to the underworld or the unseen world. Animals that change, like caterpillars turning into a butterfly, that represents our own spiritual transformation or transformation in general. It represents a transcendence above our current situations or through and out of our current situations. Let's see, another animal we could think of. Things that are prickly, like a porcupine, can represent protection. Alligators and crocodiles tend to represent fertility as well as protection, as well as having a fierce but quiet nature. There's lots of different ways that you can use the doctrine of signs to decipher what the appearance of animals in your life can mean. Another approach that you can use is by looking at core shamanism and the ways that the shamans use the animals and the animal medicine, right? So each different animal is going to have its own medicine. Another way to look at it would be to study mythology and folklore. Excuse me, to study mythology and folklore and to see what kinds of animals are associated with what deities. It's like I was fine, and then I get on here and all of a sudden I'm having troubles with my throat. So another way to look at it would be to look at deities, mythology, folklore, etc., and pay attention to which animals are associated with which deities in different mythologies or different folklore. And that is the kind of thing that I highly recommend when you want to build your spiritual practice or build your spiritual connection. It's really important to have some of that foundational information already in place, which is one of the big reasons that I recommend to people that they start reading and researching and learning. And I also recommend that it's a lifelong process because there's so much information out there. We can never really stop learning, but having some of that great foundational information is really going to help you when your guides or when the universe or when your ancestors start speaking to you in a symbolic language. When you are making these spiritual connections, you will be communicated with in a symbolic spiritual language that is designed both for you, but also for the entities or the energies that are communicating with you. So having a good foundation for what these kinds of things symbolize is going to take you a long way in being able to decipher this language and really continue to work on your spiritual connection and your spiritual relationships. Okay, moving on from that topic. The same applies to colors. I didn't say anything about colors. The same applies to colors. You can use the same sort of technique that I used with numerology for colors. So, think about or do some research about what different colors symbolize, and then use that to decipher what signs are being sent to you. I'm not huge on color symbolism, but the way that I would do it would be by relating the colors to your chakras. I do use color therapy a lot in doing chakra work, which is an excellent way to really work on your spiritual connection in all ways, shapes, and form. So I would relate to colors to your chakras and then think about that. What are the messages that are being sent to you through this color symbolism? Is it telling you that, hey, this area of your life related to this specific chakra is doing really well, and you're going to have great good things happening to you in this area of your life? Or it could also be telling you, hey, you need to work on this area of your life related to this specific chakra. Okay, so another interesting question for those of you who didn't join or who didn't join right in the beginning and are here now. Welcome and thank you for joining. Typically, this is a chance for you to submit your questions and for me to assist you with these questions. But today, I took a bunch of early bird submissions for questions, and I have 6 more super interesting questions to answer. And hopefully at the end of our chat or in the middle of our chat, I'll still have a lot of room to take some live questions as well. But stick around because I think that you'll find these topics interesting. Hi, Sexy Rah Rah. Hi, Mighty Manny. Who else is here? Tenacious TJ. Hey, how's it going? Sue Smith, T, Slow-Fi. Welcome, new faces. There's a couple of new faces here. Bree TV, nice to see you. Hi. So moving on to my next question. This is a multifaceted question, and it's one that I'm excited to talk about. The question is, I took down my ancestor altar because a worker said that there had to be protection on it. I asked if Florida water was okay, and she said it had to be like a saint. In the worker's video, she had Jesus on the cross on her altar. Do I have to purchase protection, and which one? Did I do any harm or disrespect by taking down my altar? Can I just try to connect to my guides without an altar instead? Okay, so big topic. First of all, there are a lot of cultural differences, and there are a lot of differences in traditions when it comes to working with your ancestors and when it comes to doing spiritual work. Sometimes it can be a definite red flag when somebody when they consider their truth to be the universal truth, when they come at you like, my way is the only right way. I find that it is better to relate to people from a universal perspective because people are coming from different religious backgrounds. They're experiencing different kinds of spiritual relationships. We're all individuals, and these things, they need to be personal to us and they need to work for us. So I don't come from the school of thought that there's one absolute right way and that if you're not doing that, then you're wrong. So taking that into consideration, I don't know what tradition the worker that she refers to was coming from. I also don't know what tradition the client is coming from. So if I were speaking to this client one-on-one, person to person, we would discuss that, and we would discuss how she can tailor her practice to suit her needs the best way, something that's comfortable for her. So The first thing is, the thing is, she may not be comfortable with Jesus, or she may not work with saints. Not everybody works with saints, and not everybody is comfortable with the iconography of Jesus, right? So I wouldn't say that, even if that's something I were doing, and I do work with saints, I wouldn't say that's something that she has to do. Let's move on to the other aspects of this. So the worker told her that she had to have protection on her altar, and that is why the client dismantled her altar. Okay, so yes, it is good to have protection. Does it have to come from a saint, or come from Jesus, or come from God? Does it have to come from a specific place like that? No, it does not. You can work on your own protection through energy work. You can work on your own protection through prayer. For instance, the way that I work on protection on a regular basis is with my ancestors themselves. I ask my ancestors for protection regularly. I also ask source. I consider it source energy or pure divine energy. I ask source energy, which is God or the universe or spirit, however you want to put it. I ask that energetic entity for protection as well. So you can ask for protection from whatever means is right for you. The other way that I work on protection consistently is through cleansings and spiritual purification. These things are really important when you are working with the unseen world, or when you are working with your ancestors. But they are most important when you are building your relationship with your ancestors in the beginning. The impression I get from this question is that she has just been working on building her relationship with her ancestors. That is when I would consider the relationship, or the situation, or the individual to be the most vulnerable. Now, I don't like to perpetuate fear, but the truth is there can be spirits or entities that come in and say, hey, I'm your ancestor, and they're not. Now, that doesn't mean that they have to be malevolent. That doesn't mean that they have ill intentions necessarily. Sometimes spirits are just playing around, and they want to see what kind of reaction they can get from us. Maybe they're hungry. They want to feed off of our energy. Maybe they just, they're not very evolved spirits. So they could be, you have to consider spirits in a similar way that you consider humans. They have different personalities, and they have, so because of that, they can express themselves in all kinds of different ways. So just like there can be a person who presents themselves as one thing and is not, or a person that is manipulative, or a person that is an energy vampire, right? There can be spirits like that. Sometimes these spirits do come through and claim to be your ancestors. I'm only mentioning this because this is one of the reasons why it's important in the beginning, when you're developing your ancestor relationship, to have protection. You don't want to just leave yourself vulnerable to all kinds of spirits that are coming through. When you're opening yourself up to the unseen world, you are a little bit more vulnerable than you would be normally. That being said, I haven't had a bunch of major problems, and most people that I know have not had a bunch of major problems, but it's important to be aware of it. So the main point being here, protection is important, but there's a lot of different ways to do it. You can even do it without asking for it from any kind of other deity or energetic being. You can just use energy work if you want to. You can learn how to protect yourself energetically and how to build your energetic boundaries, right? And that's important because some people practice magic and maybe they're atheists. Maybe they don't believe in a God. Maybe they don't work with deities. You have to keep in mind and take into consideration that people are coming from all kinds of different perspectives, and none of it is the absolute truth and none of it is wrong. We all need to be able to do what is right for us. Let's move on to the other parts of this question. Okay, so do I have to purchase protection, and which one? No, you absolutely do not have to purchase protection from anyone for your ancestor altar. These sound like red flags to me. If somebody told you that you have to purchase protection for your ancestor altar, that is incorrect. Do you have to learn some protection for yourself? Yes, I highly advise it. Should you take some precautions? Yes, I highly advise it. No, you do not have to go to a professional worker in order to get protection for your ancestor altar. It is your altar. It is about your relationship and your practice. You don't have to pay anybody else to help you with that. Okay. Did I do any harm or disrespect by taking down the altar? No, your ancestors will understand. But what I do recommend is that when you put your altar back up, and I do recommend that you put your altar back up because this is something that is important to you. This is a relationship that I can tell you really want to work on. And I recommend that you put it back up because someone has instilled fear in you, and that is why you took it down. I recommend that there's nothing to be afraid of. Just learn the proper techniques for protection, put your altar back up. And when you do, go ahead and explain to your ancestors, just like you would explain to me, or just like you would explain to a friend or family member in your own words, why you took the altar down and what your intentions are. Say, I'm sorry, and now I'm back, and I'm ready to learn the right way, and I'm ready to continue this work. Just let them know why. No disrespect, no harm. There is not going to be any negative repercussions for this. I find that too many people perpetuate too much fear around these traditions. So I repeat, there is not going to be any negative repercussions for this. Just communicate with them. Okay, next part of this question. Can I just try to connect to my guides without an altar instead? Yes, you can, but you need to distinguish between guides and ancestors. They're not the same thing. So your ancestor altar is not specifically for connecting to guides. Now, yeah, you can see your ancestors as a type of guide, but every ancestor is not going to be a guide. Okay, that's a bigger topic. Paying reverence, respect, and honor to your ancestors is not specifically so that they can guide you. It's because you are continuing the evolutionary line. You are continuing the energetic and spiritual connection. You're offering your ancestors spiritual evolution and illumination through continuing this relationship with them. You're helping their spiritual evolution. So it's just as much, if not more, about you helping them than it is about them helping you. They are not specifically guides. It's going to depend on the individual ancestor. So working with spirit guides can be a completely separate thing. There are all kinds of different spirit guides, and you don't need an altar to work with other types of spirit guides, but you do always need to know how to perform some kind of protection with all of this, with spirit guides or with ancestors. I hope that information was helpful, okay? And if you're here, I don't know if you are, but you can always follow up with follow-up questions. And I will move on to the next question. The next question, what is the best way to find out how many guides you have and how to meet them? So the best way to find out how many guides, the best way to connect with guides is to, first of all, know how your own spiritual connection or spiritual gifts work. Let me see if this tea is cool enough for me to drink before I move on. Okay, the best way to connect with your spirit guides is going to be to know how your personal gifts or your spiritual connection works, right? Because we all relate and connect in different ways. It's going to be either your sense of sight or your sense of hearing or your sense of feeling or your sense of smell. One of your 5 senses and your 6th sense. So one of your 6 senses is going to be the one that you relate to. One of them is going to be more dominant than others. That is the gift or the connection that you need to work on developing and strengthening, because that is the way that you specifically can make a connection with your guides. Or there are other ways too that are not just related to the senses. So it could be dream work, for example. If dreams are very strong for you and very much a way for you to receive guidance and messages, then you would start with your dreams. If it's going to be visions, then you would start by working on your sense of vision. So the number one most important thing is that you know how your gifts work for you, and you start focusing on that particular gift and making the intention that this is the way you are going to connect with your guides and the way you're going to receive messages from them. And then that's going to become a whole nother thing that you learn how to develop that. Learn meditations or energy work or techniques that assist you with developing that. If it's going to be dream work, then you learn how to do dream incubation, or you set an intention before you go to sleep at night. But first of all, set the intention of how you're going to do it and what you're going to work on. Now, secondly, you start with them one at a time. You wouldn't start out saying, I want to know how many and I want relationships with all of them. Just like any other aspect of life, just like any other thing, it is best that we start one step at a time and focus on one thing at a time. When we focus on too many things at a time, then our energy is scattered and we don't get anything done the proper way. So don't push yourself in spiritual work or spiritual connection either, because you will get overwhelmed, you will get burnout, or you will start experiencing too much phenomenon that you don't know how to deal with, and it won't work for you, right? So focus on one thing at a time, set the intention that you want to connect with one guide. Now, keep in mind different traditions, different spiritual paths, different belief systems have different ideas about our spirit guides. For example, in some traditions, this is what I believe, and in some traditions, we believe in one guide who is what's called a high-level spirit guide. And this spirit guide is a guide that has never been incarnated, has never been a human, has never lived on earth as a human. They are a spiritual entity who is assigned to us, or who has chosen to be assigned to us from the beginning of our lives, or from before we were born. And they are a part of helping us with our spiritual evolution, and we are a part of helping them with their spiritual evolution. The work that they're doing with us assists them with their own spiritual evolution. So you would want to kind of do some research and study about what kinds of guides you feel you believe in and what resonates with you, and then make a choice about what kind of guide you are seeking to connect with. Those are my first two recommendations. Start with one. And by the way, you don't have to look for them. They're already there. You don't have to go searching for your guides. We all have spirit guides. They're already here around us. They are already with us. They are already helping us, whether we know it or not, whether we're interacting with them or not, whether we're aware of it or not, whether we believe we've received any signs from them or not. They're already there. We don't have to look for them. They're not looking for us. They're with us now. So then our job becomes to either learn how to open our spiritual connection, or to learn how to raise our vibrations. And through those things, we learn how to receive their information, or receive their messages, or receive their energy, however it is we're going to receive it. Because not only does it depend heavily upon the kinds of senses that are strongest for us, or the spiritual gifts that are stronger for us as an individual, it also depends on what area of specialty they have. Spirit guides can have different areas of specialty as well. For instance, some spirit guides may be focused on energetic communication, right? Some spirit guides may be focused on different areas of our lives. They can be focused on assisting with us with the practical, mundane areas of our lives. They can be focused on assisting us with the spiritual areas of our life, etc. So We don't have to look for them. They're already there. We just have to work on our own spiritual development so that we can be open to receiving their information and communicating with them. It's a step-by-step process that involves us working on ourselves. So the other question I got was, can I turn a boy into a girl? No, I cannot. I cannot do sexual reassignment or gender reassignment through magic. Anybody who makes these kinds of claims through magic is a fraud. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there who will advertise things like penis enlargement, sexual reassignment, I will change the color of your eyes, things of that nature. These are red flags. These are fraudulent things, okay? So no, I cannot do that through magic or through spiritual work. Someone on my YouTube channel is saying magic isn't real. If you are on my YouTube channel and you think magic isn't real, then don't go on my YouTube channel, because that's what I talk about and that's what I do. So this isn't the right place for you. Okay. Next question. What is your favorite protection prayer? So the first thing that I would say is I don't do a lot of pre-written or pre-prescribed prayers. I believe that prayer should be something that comes from your heart. Prayer should be something that is, prayer doesn't have to be these big, lofty, prescribed, formalized things that we have been trained to think that they should be. Prayer is something that comes from your heart. You can talk to a guide or an ancestor or a god or a deity or whatever it is. Just the way that you would talk to a human, just the way that I'm talking to you now. You can use your own voice. You can talk from the heart. You can use your own words. It's more important that it's authentic, right? So that being said, I do have a couple of favorite St. Michael prayers. And I used one specifically when I was working on mounting my altar or my mounted Bovita. Okay, so that's a process of grounding, anchoring, and putting protection on your altar. I'm going to read you 2 St. Michael prayers. These are my favorites. St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly hosts, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all evil spirits who wander through the world of the ruin of souls. Amen. Okay. No, I'm not a Christian witch. I just want to throw that out there. So I'm not answering other questions right now. I'm answering questions that were pre-submitted. And if I have time at the end, then I will read your questions and answer them. Thank you for your patience. The other prayer that I like is cast the dark ones and their darkness. Okay, cast out the dark ones and their darkness, the evildoers and their evil words and works, cause, effects, record, and memory, into the lake of sacred fire, prepared for the devil and his angels, in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and the Mother. Amen. Those are 2 protection prayers that I like, that are prayers dedicated to St. Michael. I'm narrowing down on the last 2 pre-submitted questions. What is the best way to heal the pattern of attracting bullies into one's life? So the first recommendation I have for that, first of all, I don't want to be insensitive, because if you've been attracting bullies into your life, I wouldn't even say you've been attracting them. If you keep having experiences with bullies, I'm sorry that you're having that experience. You know, that's a difficult thing and it's a sad thing. And I wish you peace and healing. But some of the advice is also that in order for us to break patterns, we need to see it all as a lesson. And I think that's already implied in your question, because in your question, you say, what is the best way to heal the pattern? So the first thing that I recommend is seeing the world as a mirror that reflects back onto you, the things within yourself that you need to work on. Other people around you are presenting something to you that is about something you need to work on repairing or strengthening or building or tweaking or growing within yourself. So figure out what this relationship with bullies is saying to you about you. Secondly, check your boundaries. So a lot of empaths, a lot of super sensitives, a lot of people who are healers or heavily spiritually sensitive, they have a tendency to attract these kinds of people, bullies and otherwise. If you are this kind of person, and even if you aren't this kind of person and you are attracting bullies, you need to check your boundaries. Are you allowing them into your life? Is there a way that you can work on your boundaries, not just your boundaries with other people in the physical real world, like keeping people at bay until you know that you can trust them, only letting people into your life that you know you can trust, things of that nature, but also your energetic boundaries. Are you allowing people to enter your emotional and your energetic space in a way that is not good for you? Okay, these are things to think about in breaking this pattern. Is there a way? Are there multiple ways that you can protect yourself? I recommend that you address it from a holistic perspective, which means on the physical plane, on the spiritual plane, on the emotional plane, on the mental plane. Think about your boundaries in all of those areas. How can you protect yourself? How can you stop letting these people get close to you? How can you stop letting them hurt you? Okay. And then the other thing is to work on your self-love, because if you are allowing people into your life that are bullies, chances are there is something going on with your self-worth that might be a little bit weakened, that might be a little bit askew, that might be making you think that you somehow deserve to have these people in your life, or that it's something that you should allow for some reason or another. So examine your self-worth, examine your self-love, examine what you think that you deserve and what kinds of relationships you think that you deserve and what kinds of interactions you think that you deserve. Those are the areas that I suggest you assess if you want to break the pattern of attracting bullies into your life. All right. What is one magical thing that I do every day? The question is, what is one magical thing you do every day? I thought about this. I thought about this quite a bit because my life revolves around magic. My life revolves around spiritual work. This is so much a part of my everyday life that it is to the point where it is difficult to even distinguish the other things that I do, because magic and spirituality are embedded in every aspect of my daily life and every aspect of my habits. But there's one thing that I do every day that I think is incredibly magical, and that I think really assists me with connecting to not just my own spiritual connection, but really connecting to source energy. And that is recognizing and appreciating and showing gratitude for life itself. And thus, by recognizing my connection to life, my gratitude for being alive, and recognizing the interconnectedness between all living things. And the way that I do this is by appreciating life and the life that I interact with in any way. So the other living beings that I interact with, whether it's the cats that I live with in my house, whether it's my house plants, whether it's the plants outside, whether it's interacting with plants and trees when I take a daily walk to the park, or whether it's acknowledging the moon phases, acknowledging the stars, acknowledging the sun, and just taking a minute to say, this is an expression of life that is connected to me that I am extremely grateful for, and taking time to be grateful for being witness to these phenomenon, and also being able to be alive and interact with these phenomena. That is the most powerful magical act that I practice every day. All right. So I got through my 7 pre-submitted questions. I have some people on YouTube that are being a little bit impatient for me to get to their questions. I'm going to go ahead and address your question, even though you said, I see you don't know, and that's okay, no worries. The question was, this is a weird one, but seeing black flies disappearing and black rat looking shadows. I have seen them many times in my bedroom. Also, round lights of color, reds, blues, yellows. Any ideas? Yeah, people often see round lights of color when they are experiencing different kinds of spiritual entities or spirit guides that are trying to get through and connect with them. Some people even see spirits as round lights of colors. So that is definitely some guides or some spiritual phenomena or spirit phenomena that is trying to connect with you. Now, black flies disappearing and a black rat looking in the shadows. Rats definitely symbolize, once again, using the doctrine of signs, rats symbolize some kind of sneaky energy. So I would think about in what ways there may be sneaky energy around you right now. This could be an omen that there is sneaky energy or a sneaky people actually in your physical everyday life. It could also be an omen that there is a sneaky energy in your spiritual life, as in a spirit trying to contact you who is sneaky. That could be a spirit who is representing themselves as one thing and are not. They're actually something else. So basically what I'm saying is that the rat is some kind of a warning sign, okay? There's something to look out for there. Black flies disappearing, that is a weird one. You're right. Again, I would say look at the doctrine of signs to digest or dissect what these symbols mean. So flies are associated with death, okay? Rats are also associated with death, or they're associated with garbage, which means they're associated with transmuting energy, recycling energy. So this means there can be transformation or things changing in your life. There can be energies that are recycling or transforming. It means that something that has been difficult, challenging, or dark or heavy around you has the potential now to transform. It could mean that the spirit guides or spirit entities around you are ready to transform this energy for you, ready to take in this dark or difficult energy and transform it into something else. It could also mean that the dead are trying to contact you. So please take a look at that for yourself. Use the doctrine of signs and kind of be on the lookout because it does seem like a warning. Let me see if I have any other questions on Instagram. Hi, Linda. I see you. Nice to see you. Okay, I've got one question. I kind of wondered what seeing a butterfly meant. I saw one weeks ago, seemingly out of nowhere at my place of work. So butterflies are definitely a sign of transformation. It's interesting because moths and butterflies are both a sign of transformation. But when you think about moths, they have more of a nocturnal energy. So they're more about transformation related to the unseen world and spiritual growth, or spiritual development, or even like psychic development, things that are related to the shadowy world, such as the moon card and the tarot. Whereas butterflies can mean a different kind of transformation. It definitely can still have a spiritual correlation, but butterflies can be about transformation in your outer world, transformation in your love life, transformation in your own personal growth and development, your emotional life, things of that nature. And a lot of people, especially in really specific traditions, for instance, in a lot of Mexican traditions, they believe that the butterfly is the physical representation of your ancestors. So there are other kinds of beliefs to take into consideration as well. A lot of people really see butterflies as a spirit guide or an ancestor. That's a beautiful sign. I'm glad you're experiencing that. So Linda is asking me, how can we open up each chakra? I seem to have 3 that are shut tight. So my general recommendation for working with and opening your chakras is to do a meditation, or it's really energy work. It's really less a meditation and more energy work, but start with cleansing your chakras. And the way that I do that is by pulling white light or golden light through my crown chakra and then imagining that going through each chakra. And I think you have one of my chakra meditations, Linda, so I recommend that you revisit that. But if you're really having trouble connecting with, or you feel like some of your chakras are closed off, then start with that cleansing energy work that I'm talking about, which is pulling bright lights through your crown chakra, through your body, spending time visualize and feeling that light going out each and every one of your chakras. And it takes time in the beginning. If some of them are feeling closed up, you might need to spend like 45 minutes or an hour on this. So set aside a chunk of time. I mean, 1 hour per week, it's not that big of a deal, considering we might spend an hour surfing Facebook or an hour watching Netflix, right? Set aside an hour a week to do this. And then after you get that part of it down and you really feel like your chakras are working better, then you can spend some time really pulling each color of energy through the corresponding chakras. And it takes practice, but it doesn't take that much practice. You'll make progress in this way sooner than you may anticipate. And you will see and feel a difference even after like 1 to 3 times of practicing that. Now, there's other steps that I would recommend to go along with that, such as grounding yourself afterwards, and doing a little bit of cleansing beforehand. So those are some things that I would encourage you to look into, research on your own. Hi, Cosmic Craft. Nice to see you here. So your question is, how would you interpret this? I recently burned some Palo Santo gifted to me, burned for a bath ritual. After a few seconds, hundreds of tiny ash curls flew all over the room and then dissolved. So that's interesting. I do find it really fascinating, and a really just fascinating practice to interpret the way that things burn, right? So it's very traditional in many traditions to interpret the way that a cigar burns, for example, when you're smoking a cigar at the altar, or when you're using your cigar smoke for a cleansing or for an offering, you would interpret the way that that cigar burns. And you can definitely apply the same thing to like a sage bundle or something of that nature. You're welcome, Linda, and you're welcome, John. I hope the information was helpful. And if you have any follow-up questions, please let me know. So you can apply it to burning your sage or burning your Palo Santo. I haven't often had that experience where a bunch of them, hundreds of tiny ash curls, flew all over the room and then dissolved. And what I'm getting from that is like a message for you specifically. This is not a general interpretation. I feel that I'm receiving a specific message for you, which says your guides are all around you. Don't forget it. Don't question it. Your guides are all around you. They are surrounding you. A curl indicates a change. A curl indicates a steady unraveling, a steadily unfurling of a situation or of a topic or of growth. I would interpret that to mean about your steady spiritual growth. I would interpret it to mean that it has already started and it will not stop. This growth will continue for you. It will continue into your future, and it will continue to be a positive change that will affect your life in every way. It's not going to stop. If that has been a fear of yours or a concern of yours, you've received the answer now. It's not going to stop. It's only going to continue to grow and uncurl for you. That's the message that I have for you. Some of that is something that I would apply as a general reading to those signs, and some of that I feel like is a message that came through for you. It looks like we have about 10 minutes left. So I know I spent a lot of time answering pre-submitted questions today. So if anybody has any other questions that you would like to throw out, now would be the time. And if you haven't participated in a live spirit chat before, this is a chance for you to participate in a free group coaching session and get your questions answered about developing your spiritual path, developing your spiritual abilities, developing your spiritual connection, developing your spiritual practice, developing your psychic abilities and your intuition, and all kinds of topics related, such as working with your ancestors, your spirit guides, your guardian spirits, practicing magic, folk magic, fire magic, divination, tarot, and all kinds of things related and in between. So we've got a few minutes left. If anyone has a question, I'm happy to answer them. Cosmic Craft says, oh my, for real, means so much. It was an ancestor ritual for connecting to my roots. Thank you so much. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. I feel like that was a really beautiful ritual, and it's actually making me a little emotional thinking about that and kind of feeling the energy that I'm picking up from that. So I'm glad it was helpful for you. Ray, awesome. I'm really into this. Glad I found this in my recommended feed. Me too. Thank you for joining. I'm really glad that you're enjoying it, and I'm glad that you found it too. Jay Dizzy, hey, how are you? I put in an offer on a house 1 week ago. Oh, yes, they accepted your offer. That's great news. How can I apply good energy during the closing process other than prayer? I would give an offering. And depending on where you are in your spiritual path, that offering does not have to be something formal that you put out for a specific spirit or a specific guide or a specific ancestor or anything like that. This offering, I recommend that you give an offering to charity in order to continue this good energy of the blessings that you have just received. Give an offering to charity. Set the intention in your mind that this offering is giving thanks for what you have received. It doesn't have to be a big offering. It can be a small offering. It's not about the money that you give or what you're able to give. It's about the energy and the intention and the gratitude behind it. Maybe for people who are homeless, or people, who don't have a home, or perhaps for some kind of program that is working to build homes or house the homeless. Okay, here's a question. Seeing past family members in dreams, having actual conversations, you believe that could be my father's way of actually connecting to me? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, they do. They can definitely connect to you that way. It's happened to me. It happens to a lot of people. That is absolutely a valid way that your ancestors can connect with you. I don't think you have any reason to question that. I feel that it's very clear for you. And congratulations. That's wonderful. I'm glad that's happening for you. Yes, you have been working with St. Joseph, and I'm glad that it's working out for you. So this is the one who's saying that her home, is it a home loan? Or yeah, they accepted her offer on a house, and she's saying she's been working with St. Joseph. So congratulations. I'm very happy for you, and I'm very happy that St. Joseph has come through for you. Also, it's helpful to make some kind of a public thanks to St. Joseph, even if it's just, on somebody's Instagram feed. If you see a picture of St. Joseph and you put a comment below, like, thank you, St. Joseph, for all you've done for me and for all you'll do in the future, etc. Some kind of public recognition is always nice for the saints. Love Light Lauren says, yes, it was very clear. Thank you. Just needing confirmation. Yeah, no worries. I think it's very clear as well. I'm glad that's happening for you. Hi, JC Moji. I think maybe that's how I say it. Just a few minutes left here. I think that you may have submitted some early bird questions, and I did spend some time answering those questions. So this is going to be saved for 24 hours in my story. Make sure that you rewatch it so you can catch those answers. I'm so glad that you're enjoying this, Linda, and I'm so glad that you're here. Linda over on YouTube is saying this is fabulous. Linda and I have known each other quite a while, and I'm really glad that you're enjoying this, Linda. I'm glad you're here. Okay, cool. Yeah, those were your questions. Thank you to everyone who pre-submitted questions, the questions that were pre-submitted and all of the questions, but the questions that were pre-submitted were really interesting. They were really fun to talk about. I really enjoyed having those to delve into. And I'm very grateful for all of you who either joined today or who submitted your questions in advance. Like I always say, I love these spirit chats. I look forward to them. This is one of the highlights of my week. And I'm grateful to all of you. I love talking about your questions and having these conversations and interactions. That's awesome. I'm really glad that you usually join in on Sundays. I have one more spirit chat on next Sunday. And then after that, I'm not sure if it will continue on Sundays or not. That was just kind of by chance that I was able to get them in on Sundays. They're not always on Sundays, but they are almost always once a week. I do announce them in advance. I schedule them on YouTube and I announce them in advance on Instagram, at least like 3 days or so in advance. So you should be able to get some notice. You can join either on YouTube or on Instagram. And I'm going to go ahead and log off now. So thank you so much, everyone. It's been my pleasure, and stay blessed.